Yo, what's up? It's me and my boy Julian here. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Me and my boy Julian here. I wanted to talk to you about this masterclass I attended recently. It keeps replaying in my head, partially because it was super awkward, but then also because it made me think about a lot. So a well-known jazz saxophonist came to this college that I usually practice at. And I thought, what the heck, I'll go see what he's got to say. So I went to his masterclass, and basically the whole masterclass was him trying to sell his theory book and kind of explaining his improvisation concepts and how he just kind of digests it and thinks about it. Pretty standard stuff, really. But then towards the end, after he finished all that, he started to take questions. And that is whenever it got interesting. This guy can't stay awake for anything. So the thing that made this situation happen was a student of the college, I'm assuming, and he asked, and I'm going to paraphrase here because it was a couple weeks back now, so it's not exactly what he said. Give him credit to that. But he asked this guy, he said, whenever you're learning a new chart, how much of learning it is picking through the changes versus just blowing and figuring it out? He then went on to say, well, my professor every week has me arpeggiating these changes and, playing through these changes every week, and I've been doing it for so long now that I just don't know how much better it's actually making me. Let's just pause for a second here. If you're trying to badmouth your teacher to another teacher and have him undermine him, it is not going to go well, okay? It's not. So anyways, this guest artist starts to absolutely dunk on this kid. He's like, it sounds like your teacher is trying to get you to lay some very basic groundwork here. He's like, no offense, but how much do you even practice? Oh, 2 to 4 hours a day? That is not nearly enough. I practice at least 6 hours every single day. And then he said, it sounds like you're looking for shortcuts. So I was just kind of sitting there, half embarrassed for this kid, but also the other half of me really enjoying it, because I feel like everyone is kind of there at some point, like, oh, this teacher's got me doing all this stuff. So anyway, I've been there. I'm sure you have too. But the question did kind of rattle around my head, and I came to the conclusion, and hear me out, that I think there should be room for intentional practice, and there also should be room for just blowing, as he phrased it. Scandal. And here's my point. I feel like picking through the changes, it helps with your sort of working music theory knowledge. Like whenever you're improvising, you have to know your arpeggios, you have to know where you're resolving, all that kind of stuff. So it's really cementing the fundamentals in your brain. But on the other side, I think that just blowing, it helps you figure out what you actually know. It helps you with your flow of your ideas, and also really helps with your, I think, body instrument connection, which evidently is so much of a problem that there's been numerous books and classes written on it, trying to capture that little magic. I'm reading one right now that is awesome, and I recommend it to everyone, actually. It's called Effortless Mastery. I forget who the author is. I'll put it in the description, so check that out. So the guest artist was right in the way that there are no shortcuts, but I would argue that there are definitely long cuts. Just as there's like back roads and highways to get where you want to go, I think there are definitely quicker ways to at least get you started. I think that student actually just failed to realize that he is already on the highway. I think he's learning chord scale theory, which is pretty widely taught, but it teaches, what scales can be played over what chords, which immediately puts a whole bunch of notes right at your fingertips anytime you're trying to improvise. However, putting those in cohesive rhythms and melodic patterns is a completely different story. I think the backroads of learning solos really helps you start to understand the jazz language and fills in those gaps that theory really can't help you with. Going back to the original question though, I would say knowing the language and being able to play the language are two entirely different things. That's why I would encourage, just blowing in a practice session, because I think it's a really helpful metric to show yourself, oh, how much of this language is actually available to me whenever I'm trying to improvise a solo. In the end, though, I do think the question asker was in the wrong for trying to drag his teacher and probably did get what he deserved. I do wish the artist took some more time in answering the question, though, because from the perspective of a young musician, the difference in ability between them and someone decades down the line is insurmountable. No wonder the first question we always ask a professional is, what do you practice? It's so hard to accept the fact that 20 or 30 years does so much for an instrumentalist. You have to believe that there's magic somewhere. So, anyways, keep practicing your fundamentals, keep working on your theory, keep putting one brick on top of the other, and eventually you'll have a house. Happy practicing!